And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Box Office Shuffle. It's time for Season 2, Episode 3, or I think our 15th episode overall, where this week we're talking about a World War II drama from 2002, starring Colin Farrell and Bruce Willis. We're talking about Hart's War, which was a fictionalized telling of a POW incident, actually based on a novel by, I got the guy's name here, John Katzenbach, which was released about 3 years before the movie came out. It was bought almost immediately to turn into a movie, and it was actually his second book to be done, and I'll get into that in a little bit. It was a film from MGM, so I think technically Amazon owns this now, because they bought MGM. So that's why I was like, when we were doing the pre-show, I was a little shocked this was not on Amazon Prime, but we did buy it, watch it off my DVD, because if you don't know, people, this is a podcast all about our physical media collections, or in this case, in some cases where we get into, maybe for our next one, Joey digitizes his, but he takes them all off of his own physical media. We put them in a shuffler, on the wheelofnames.com. We pick who's going to host between me, Thomas, aka Mr. Warburg, between Chris, aka Gamma Caruchador, and between Joe, aka Joe. And then we pick a movie from a list of their films, or my film, in this case. And then we talk about it in a week, which is a pretty fun time. So if you like that kind of thing, stick around, hit the like, subscribe, and stay tuned for later in the episode when we get into what our next episode film is going to be. Joey's got a lot of interesting films on that list.
I've got some stinkers I'm excited for.
He really does have some stinkers. I have perused the list. I hopefully nothing worse than Kingpin, for the love of God.
I have worse than Kingpin on the list.
You never bought, Norbit, did you?
No,
You remember, God, that movie sucked. It's so bad.
Is that the Eddie Murphy plays every role movie?
Yeah. It was awful. And it was like a parody of those films. It was...
Yeah.
It's just so bad. Awful.
Now I've got I've got a 4-hour-long film that we only watched the first 30 minutes of.
Oh, God. You make me hate movies sometimes. Anyway, we're talking Hart's War, which is a film, as I said, from my collection. Released February 15th, 2002, for a very lovely Valentine's Day release. Nothing screams that more than a World War II period drama set in a POW camp.
Yeah.
It was directed by Gregory Hoblit, who had done a number of other films before this. I think this is one of his last ones. No, he had a couple later, now that I remember right. Yeah, Fracture came out after. I did Primal, Fear, Fallen, Frequency, which stars Jim Caviezel, I think. Fracture, Untraceable, and actually had 9 Emmys for TV producing and editing, and directing, for shows like Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blue, LA Law. Good enough directing job. His pilot got an Emmy for LA Law, as well as Hooperman. So basically a lot of cop shows. His last directorial credit was an episode of The Strain, which I believe aired on FX. I don't know which episode it was, but that was his last directorial credit. Interesting note on his point. He was the producer of the 1978 TV movie Doctor Strange. That Doctor Strange. That was back in the 70s when they had a Spider-Man and a Captain America, and that Hulk versus Captain America movie. And right before I think they would do the Hulk, or maybe it was during that run, they did a bunch of TV movies as well. And he was a producer for Doctor Strange, which I thought was an interesting note to have.
I didn't know they made Doctor Strange into a TV series.
No, it was just a movie, TV movie. They had a number of those, hour and a half, TV movie specials back in the day. Yeah. The writers were, let me get to my notes here, Billy Ray and Terry George, along with the novelist John Katzenbach. He was credited as well. Cast is the aforementioned Bruce Willis and Colin Farrell. This is one of Colin Farrell's first American films, though not his first as a leading man. That would be Tigerland, which was actually another war movie a couple years earlier, which I own for some reason. I didn't even realize that came before this. And then we have Terrence Howard as Lincoln Scott. Cole Hauser plays Vic Bedford. Sam Worthington is his second film as a Corporal BJ. I don't even think they ever say his name. Deepo Guidry. That's, again, his second film ever. He would go on to a lot bigger things later in the decade, I think. Yeah, because Avatar was 2009, and this was 2002, right? Avatar was 2009, right?
Wait, this was a movie from 2002?
Yeah, 2002.
Wow.
Didn't I say that? Did I say 2012? No, it was 2002.
Yeah, no, you might have. Just from watching it, it looked like a 90s film.
Yeah, very much so. I was going to make the note.
But I guess
like,
I mean, yeah.
Did they a lot of these kind of period piece dramas, not just specifically in World War II. This was towards the tail end, obviously, of the DVD, or not tail end, but maybe heyday of the DVD era. And we don't get them a lot because that market basically doesn't exist anymore. There's a great interview with Matt Damon about why this kind of movie doesn't happen anymore. And it was budgeted $70 million and it only made $33.1. So not a very big financial success. And this was actually one of the last films. Jonathan Brandis is in this movie. But I don't remember him actually seeing him in the final cut. Unless he dies in the train. But
right here on IMDb, it says Private Lewis P. Wakely, scenes deleted.
Yeah, he is in the deleted scenes. So that's why I was like, the credits had him missing. And I'm like, I was looking for him because he famously committed suicide a year after this movie came out, just about. And he had a few things posthumously come out as well, either that he wrote or was a part of. But this was one of the last things he was ever credited in before his suicide. So wanted to note that one as well. The other movie from the writer, John Katzenbach, was a Sean Connery and Lawrence Fishburne movie called Just Cause in 1995. We got 2 adaptations made, which is pretty good. Especially with that cast. That's pretty great. Originally, Alfonso... Gamma, you might know how to say this. He was the director of Prisoner of Azkaban. Alfonso Cuarón? I don't know how to say his last name. I've heard it, I'm sure, at award shows.
How's it spelled?
Cuaron with a asterisk on the O, I think.
Cuarón?
Probably. That sounds right to my head. He also directed Prisoner of Azkaban, like I said, Children of Men, and Gravity. But he actually left to do a Mexican comedy coming of age for, I think it came out in 2001. So he left fairly early in production. And Edward Norton was supposed to be the original lead as Thomas Hart, but he dropped out as well. And then Colin Farrell was cast as Thomas Hart. I don't know if I could see Edward Norton in this movie, though.
I could see him playing this role, but I could not see him playing this role as well as Colin Farrell did.
No. Colin Farrell, especially early Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
This was a good role.
Here's something about just a little bit about going into this movie. You could hear his Irish come through a few times.
Oh, yeah. A couple times.
I could have are we in Boston? Yeah. What's going on here? I was like,
during his end court speech, I was like, oh, there's your Irish. Oh, there's your Irish.
Couple of times. So before we get into some of the plot and our thoughts on whether or not the movie really worked, now that we've got some of the particulars out of the way, I believe this was both of yours first watch of this film.
Yep.
For me, it was my first in many, many years, probably since my parents brought the DVD home, because this would have came out when I was 12 on physical release, and obviously had an R rating, so I didn't see it in theaters. But I know we watched it because my mom watched a lot of war movies. Like we have Tears of the Sun, we had Tigerland, a number of other. We were Soldiers, had a bunch of movies on DVD and Blu-ray from around that time, centered around various different wars. I think she had us watch Born on the 4th of July, Glory Road. Then we had that one on VHS. Bunch of films like that. So I didn't quite all the way 100% remember this one, but I knew most of the gist as we were going along. So first takeaway from you, gentlemen, what were your thoughts on the movie? At least enjoyable time? Or is this just, I can kind of leave it, forget it, like it's already out of my mind?
I enjoyed parts of it, but it probably will leave my mind in the concept. Yeah, it's an okay movie in my category. Just the ending, I like the build up of the front half, middle is okay, and the ending I was like, the fuck? Okay. I don't know. A little different on this movie, but
Gamma, what about you?
Yeah, so we went into this, and I'll say I wasn't necessarily looking forward to it because I knew it was a war movie, and I mean war movies don't really do it for me too much. But I didn't know that it was like a court movie more than a war movie, in my opinion. And I enjoy court movies. What's the one with Tom Cruise?
Oh,
12 Angry Men?
no,
No.
No. Oh God.
not A Few Good
You
Men.
can't handle the
Exactly.
truth.
Yeah,
that one.
that movie.
That movie. Like, I love
Is
that
that A Few
movie.
Good Men?
Maybe A Few Good Men.
You good man.
Yeah, A Few Good Men. That's what it was.
The Descendants is a pretty good movie. And of course, My Cousin Vinny, but that's more of a comedy.
That has been popping up so much in my YouTube shorts.
Really?
Oh yeah,
It's a great movie.
Yeah. Especially the scene with
We'll
this
watch
where
it
he's got
again.
the suit. That shitty
Oh.
red suit. That's
Yeah.
been in my feed quite a bit of late.
But I like court movies, so I went into this not really expecting to enjoy it. And I do agree that there are some really weird plot points. I think that there's some missed threads that they kind of just left open that I would have liked to see closed. The ending was very abrupt. But for the most part, I actually enjoyed this movie. I was deeply I bought everybody's performances in this movie for sure. I think Terrence Howard did a great job. And again, Colin Farrell did a great job. So I actually really liked this movie. I might add it to the collection if I see it on one of those bargain bins. I'd probably add it.
Fair enough. Joey, your take on adding it to your collection?
I would add it to my collection. Like I said, I'd probably rip it, put it on the server, and if it randomly was selected one time, but not.
You would do a
Recent.
DVD rip though?
I do DVD rips.
Save the space.
Save space.
Yeah, save the space.
My space is at a premium.
Oh, it is. Well, once you get up to the
Yeah.
Blu-rays and beyond, it gets pretty big.
Oh, it does. Even compressing down to like what 24, they still take up good room, but it like I think Chris put it better in words I was trying to say, because like performance, I felt everyone was outstanding. I felt like no one was really slacking, and that's all I got.
Don't disagree with any of those takes, really.
Mm-mm.
Most of my notes were actually on some of the background of the film in terms of like when it was set, because I have my degree in history and government, and World War II was a big portion of my, academic career. And in fact, I actually wrote a pretty serious research paper on POW camps, specifically the German POW camps in Iowa. I did a big piece on those. And like doing between Algona and Clorinda. Algona and Clorinda were the two big Midwest base camps for the German ones over here. Used them a lot, like they mentioned in the film about labor in the fields, and actually did go to people's homes and that kind of thing. They were treated significantly better than POWs overseas, and Germans specifically. Obviously, they were between them and Italy. They had almost all the camps in Germany. American troops were actually not treated that badly in terms of compared to how the Russians were treated. That was pretty on point. Just for whatever reason, the Russians had one of the more higher mortality rates of soldiers that were captured by German forces, especially on the Eastern Front, less so on the Western Front, which is where this camp is. There really just weren't as many Russian soldiers in Western camps. So that probably skews the numbers quite a bit, because obviously their front is in the East.
Yeah.
And common misnomer, that's actually the main front of the entire war. Because, oh my god, so many more people died on that front. It's not even funny. But the background, specifically in this film, is set during the Battle of the Bulge, which was the last attempt at an offensive by German forces. And it was a real, oh shit, we're gonna, lose moment when this fails for the Nazis. And you see that come through in the background a little bit, especially with the Commandant, the scene between him and Bruce Willis's character, McNamara, when the German is drunk because he realizes that the war is basically over. And we just lost, the Allies are winning, which is a neat little background undertone to the whole thing, which is, the Germans have all this power, but they know it's not going to last forever because the Allies are here, and specifically America is in the fight, and that's not going to end well for Germany. Especially given how, at the time, the Pacific campaign was going, which after the Battle of Midway, which was in 1942, it was pretty quickly Japan's fucked. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take. So that was a lot of interest. I like that background piece, and that's obviously a pretty heavy component of the novel, I would imagine, as well. And another note, the German commandant being an American graduate of Yale is a nice touch. Obviously, you guys might not know, hopefully some of you do. Yamamoto, the admiral behind the plan on Pearl Harbor, he was a Harvard student and before he returned to Japan. So that was a real life thing. Like there was a lot of crossover, especially, Europeans coming to study in America. Not a ton the other way around, mostly just because of the costs. But there was a fair few, like Oppenheimer obviously studied overseas as well, within a number of courses, because that's where all the leading physicists were. But when it came to things like law and other things like that, a lot of it was in America because we took like litigious, like making laws and like the courtroom stuff very seriously. So a lot of them came over, especially with the naval academies and the military academies. There was some crossover stuff there, so. That was an interesting note that I quite appreciated as a history guy. That was really all I had for notes, so this is going to be a pretty short episode, which is fine by me, because it's 9:30, and I got to watch that Daredevil Season 3 finale. So I got to get ready for Born Again, baby. Let's go. I'm excited. So, scores for this one, gentlemen. What would you give it? We're going to stick with a 6, we're going to do a 5, we're going to do a 7. For context, Hart's War on Rotten Tomatoes has a 60% approval rating, at least as of the editing of the Wikipedia page. I haven't actually checked it. No. An average rating of about 5.9/6 out of 10.
I think that's exactly what I would give it. I would give it a 3 stars, 6 out of 10.
Same category.
I think it's perfect medium film. One that if it comes on, I'll watch it. Pretty good.
Sounds good to me. That's exactly where I was going to go. It's nice when we're all in agreement. Doesn't maybe make for super interesting YouTube content, but...
Okay, before we started recording, we end the movie, and Warburg's like, "Oh, Chris, is this going to be another Godfather moment?" And I'm wondering what you thought, because I was just silent.
The pace of it. Well, that you just left, so I had no idea if you were even listening.
Oh, I didn't leave. I was just kind of,
soaking it in.
I just had nothing to say because it ended so abruptly.
It was a very abrupt ending.
I was like, and okay, we're just wrapped up. All right, so
yeah. So
okay.
the basic rundown of the plot is not that complicated, and to me, the plot itself feels like, had this been made like 8 years later, this might have been almost a miniseries. You know what I mean? Like, in the vein of what Band of Brothers would be. Though obviously Band of Brothers, based on actual real events and people.
Oh, it's so good.
This is fictional work. But it feels like the pacing is like, this is a weird thing to pace into a 2 hour and 17-minute movie. Yeah. It didn't quite fit. And I almost wonder, especially because Brandis' stuff was all cut, what was the original runtime? I was doing some background digging. I couldn't find anything on the original runtime, how many edit drafts, how many passes through the editing this needed to go through. That can tell you a lot in terms of, how a movie goes, whether it be a movie or a TV show. Like famously the re-edited version of Falcon and Winter Soldier that had an entire subplot just fucking gone, right? Like, and obviously the editing that saved Star Wars. Like, I couldn't find anything on it in terms of how long was it originally supposed to be, but it feels like it was supposed to be longer with stuff, especially because, Brandis was, not, the biggest name in movies, but certainly bigger than stuff with, Sam Worthington at the time. Like, it feels like those were things that maybe would have helped pace out the story more. And at the time, 3-hour movies, not a thing. They're a thing now. They were a thing in the 70s and the 80s. They really fell out hard. Audiences really veered toward quicker stories in the 90s and early 2000s, and then things kind of went kind of crazy again with the Nolans and the Tarantinos making crazy epics again. So I wonder if this would have been better served, adapted a decade or two later to tell a longer story.
For me, so I mean, if you're watching this, you've probably watched the movie, or you don't care to watch the movie. Just want to hear our thoughts. So, Colin Farrell's character gets captured at the beginning of the movie, and then he goes into interrogation, and he's supposed to like tell them, oh, they're looking for something. I don't know if it's like fuel depots or
yeah,
like,
fuel dumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Basically,
it's like fuel dumps,
things to explode.
Yeah.
right? So, it's found out later that apparently he told them after only 3 days, and like that's on from a viewer standpoint, you see that and you're like, oh, that's gonna be a big issue going forward. And they barely mention it, and it is a little bit of an issue, but it's a very issue over on the side, and then here's the meat and potatoes, and here's your one corn fritter of this subplot that I wanted more of. I wanted to see like, oh, he gave them incorrect information, and they accidentally let him through,
or the other officers are like, but you were being tortured, and your feet were basically had to be cut off. Like another day, your feet were gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, like that felt underdeveloped part of the plot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love to see that come to a conclusion, though.
I didn't feel like they wanted to, because that final interaction between Farrell and Willis, it feels like he's like, I respect this guy. Like we had our moment.
Yep.
But the fits and starts of that happening doesn't really work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are issues with this movie. That's why it's a 6 out of 10. It isn't perfect, but I do think that it's still good enough to watch. I think that people should watch it. I think it especially has a good telling of a black man and a white man's war. Like how bad that was, especially in the era that we are right now. These are the kind of stories that I want to see more of, but we're about to lose a lot of these stories. I'm just sorry, world. Hey, let's keep it light, people. No. We're gonna lose some of those stories. If you want a story like that, this is a good one to go back to.
One of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen actually passed away, I want to say a couple months ago. And I actually did not know that Robin Wright's dad, the anchor on Good Morning America, Robin Wright's dad was a Tuskegee Airman. I didn't know that. I should have known that. Maybe I did at one point, but I forgot because she was talking about it on air. I was like, huh,
wow,
I did not know that. But yeah, he passed away, I want to say it was sometime in January.
Damn.
It was right around the time Carter died. But yeah, for real, those stories, there aren't that many of them left. Especially that saw, actual combat. So.
Right.
All right. So, this was also the same year, on one other note. 2002 was the same year as Minority Report, which is largely seen as Farrell's huge breakout into actual box office success. Because his first, Tigerland, didn't do very well at the box office. So.
No,
and then Phone Booth would only be a year later.
I love Phone Booth. I think Phone Booth is great.
Yep.
And it's shorter, so it's a nice quick watch.
Yeah. It's a quick action, thriller. Yeah. Very much so. Did I have any other notes on the cast? I don't think so. I don't think I did. That's mostly it. Maybe we're going to have a 20-minute episode, people. All right.
Hey.
It happens.
So, we're going to get into our next film. We don't need to do the host wheel this time because we already know it's going to be Joey's spin.
Yep.
Let's go.
So, Joey, just to pad out the episode here, what are you hoping for?
Anything that's not John Wayne or The Invisible Man or He Knew Too Much. Anything else would be pretty
What's
good.
that 4-hour movie that we're only going to watch 30 minutes of?
I believe it's The Invisible Man.
Oh, okay.
Or He Knew Too Much. One of those two are 4 hours. I'm like, Jesus Christ, why is this in my collection? Rip it. Got to.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll trim the fat for season 3 just to avoid those. I don't know. We'll see.
I kept those in there because I did a conglomerate. I'm like, there's some really bad ones in here that I'm like, no one else is going to watch. I've watched at least every movie I have at least once. And I'm like, what the fuck did I collect this for?
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. And I was like, I just put it in the list. And now I'm like, I do kind of cut some of those because I wants to watch John Wayne's Blue Steel It's so bad.
I have a notion. If we get one of those movies where you suspect it's that bad,
Yeah.
bring a backup movie, but like run your own wheel. Don't tell me, and have that with you ready to roll for that movie night. In case we lose our audience, like if Jaron bounces again, you're like, oh,
Literally just breathing
hang
air is
on,
better.
guys, we'll call an audible.
Well, I think
And then mid episode, we'll just stop talking about that movie we quit and talk about the new one.
Yeah, I'll take a doubleheader because fuck, they're so bland.
I'm looking through your list and there is some stinkers. Ugh. Well, and which Dark Tower do you have?
Oh, is that the new one? Idris Elba?
No, that'd have been the older one. That would be.
Oh man.
Let me get my app up. Sorry about this. Yeah, if you guys like make your own media server, it's so awesome.
That's the plan. Joey does a jellyfin
Yeah.
server. Eventually, I'd like to do that someday. But let's spin. Also,
It's
I
a
think
2017
I think you misspelled gladiator. It's spelled gladiator.
There's a good
Gladiator?
chance.
That's amazing. All right, so running the list. Here we go. It's spinning away. Come on, something decent. What do we got?
Come on.
Wait. Oh, World War Z, a newer film.
Oh no.
Let's go.
That's an interesting contrast between you two.
I do not like zombie movies at all.
So you haven't seen this one?
I am terrified of zombie movies.
This one will only help you be more terrified.
I know. The way that I've seen them crawl up a wall, I want to die. I'm so ready to postpone this next movie night so much.
Well, then this might be a Mike's on.
Yeah.
It might be. This might have to be, because here's the thing. If it's not, I might have to dip at some point because I just won't be able to continue.
Fair enough.
I like Shaun of the Dead, but it's hard for me to get through that movie because I
Okay.
hate it so much.
Fair
And
enough.
in the next episode, we'll go over why.
Okay. Oh, speaking of next episode, we should also talk about other movies that we have seen. Have you guys added anything to your collection? I have.
I have not. I'm waiting till May.
I have since December.
My sister found Bumblebee on Blu-ray for me for $1.30,
Hey yo.
Huh?
Good find.
which
Dude,
I quite enjoyed that film.
it's one of the better Transformer films.
It is. I think it's the second best. I think of the live actions. I'm not counting Transformers 1.
I don't think I've seen that.
Pretty good.
I don't
It's in my
remember.
list now. I already added it to my Transformers list. So if I pull
That's the one with
Transformers,
John Cena, right?
it is where he makes the Decepticon joke. It's like they literally call themselves Decepticons. Doesn't raise any red flags for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his role, just his arc alone, worth watching the movie for, right?
Okay.
Plus, Haley Steinfeld is awesome.
I've seen the movie and I don't remember anything about the movie.
Pretty good. I quite enjoyed it. Speaking of other movies, I also watched The Gorge last night, which is Apple TV, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Miles Teller. It's that sci-fi movie where they're different sides of, like, he's an American, she's a Russian/Lithuanian, and they gotta, guard this sci-fi horror door to hell gorge in the middle of probably somewhere in Siberia.
Heard of it.
It's actually quite
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I would say
Sounds pretty cool.
it's like a 7 out of 10 with a very interesting concept that is not fully fleshed out enough to be really that enjoyable. Like, the villain is, like, really stupid. But the concept of, like, the gorge itself, fucking rad. It tells me this script might have started as a video game. Like a Silent Hill type.
Okay.
And it absolutely succeeded in giving me some fucking nightmares last night. Like, it's just weird. Like,
All right.
the creature design and, like, the sound design, while it was a little dark to hide the CGI, I'm sure, it was still very effective. So, if that kind of vibes your thing, I actually absolutely recommend it just for that. And Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy are pretty great in the movie. So, quite a good time. So if you're going to re-up your Apple TV for something, that's one to watch. I doubt it'll get a physical release, but I watched it. That and the Oscars, I was bouncing back and forth. Were you guys surprised by any of the Best Picture stuff?
Didn't.
I
didn't.
100% forgot to watch it. So
I was here's what I was talking about this with my mom earlier. I didn't know any movie that was up for Best Picture, and the people and I knew one of. No,
Well, I think
knew
one you knew, but
who
you
won
would have never
Best
watched
Actor.
it. Dune Part 2. You'd have never watched it.
That garbage. Sand. I'm just gonna be.
Worms.
I'm just gonna go Anakin, and I don't like sand.
Chris's hatred of
It's
Dune
everywhere.
is legendary.
That is the meme of this. Oh wait, have we figured out the degrees of Kingpin for
we
for
have
this?
not done that yet.
Again.
Hold on, we're
got this.
back. We're back, everybody.
We're back, baby.
I feel like Bacon and Willis have had to have been in a movie together.
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
But it's not about bacon. It's about Kingpin.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I meant to, I was on degrees of Kevin Bacon. We're talking that. Yeah.
The name of that website that we used?
Let me go. Bruce Willis to Randy Quaid. Well, their number is 2. Bruce Willis to Randy
Okay.
Quaid.
Okay. Damn, so that's pretty close then.
Colin?
What about Bill Murray or
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson?
Wait. Yeah.
Oh.
This is such a dumb thing we're doing.
Dude, I have to remember every single time.
Bruce Willis and Bill Murray were in a movie together, Moonrise Kingdom. So that's one. That's our degree of.
That's right.
That's our degree of Kingpin.
All right,
Okay,
1 degree
got
of
it.
Kingpin.
Yep.
Well,
Moonrise Kingdom,
1 degree.
2012.
Wow.
Dang.
I guess we're
what do
gonna
we think
keep
the-
doing
I
degree
mean-
degree of
Degree of
Kingpin.
I mean, Bill Murray and Woody Harrelson are going to be pretty simple to get some degrees on, I think.
Along
Like,
with
get
that
low
era,
amounts.
Randy Quaid. Less so now
Yeah.
because of reasons.
Yeah.
I was gonna do Terrence Howard to Woody Allen. And I was like, oh, this is not a good
Hmm.
search.
Imagine, yeah. But yeah, that's our degree of Kingpin.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to wrap up for probably only a 30-minute episode. This will be our shortest, I think, for some time. Our next film, as we decided, was World War Z from Joey's collection. Joey, what rip was that from? Did you rip a Blu-ray?
Blu-ray. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll be watching in our Discord server with our community about sometime in the next week and a half-ish. We'll see what happens around March Madness. Things will get weird. But that's the plan. See ya in a couple weeks.
Or longer if I want to.
Very true. Very true. We'll see you
little boy.
Well,
He's okay.
sometime in the near future, Chris will confront his fears for your amusement. See ya.
See ya.